Um, Welcome everyone for the 14th session, I think, of SSAS and MDX 2016. We discussed about cube structure and dimension usage, calculations. We created some KPIs, and we will be revisiting, as I mentioned, after we learned MDX. We discussed about partitions, aggregations, types of aggregations, and particularly usage-based aggregations. I still have the query running. Yesterday it was like 5 to 10 queries here. Now it captured 25 queries, and here are the total number of queries with the start time and the duration and the data set. And we discussed about perspectives. It's a view on top of the cube, and translations. We created a translation at the cube level, and we have seen that. And browser is an option to see your data. Now, the only pending thing is actions. Actions, if you ask me from the cube structure page, the cube page, the most commonly used stuff is cube structure, because this is where you will be adding your dimensions and the measures. And the next important one is dimension usage, because this decides how the dimension and the facts are related. And then calculations, if you need to create any calculations, and partitions to improve the performance. And rare cases, you will be using aggregations and a little bit of perspectives. And 1 out of 100 cubes, you will go for translations. And there may be little use of actions too. But as I mentioned in last session, KPIs is there in every what you call reporting tool. The same way, even the actions you can define in your reporting tool. So that's why the priority, and these actions are not changed from last 5 releases or so, or 4 releases or so. So people are not preferring to use these actions because they have other options like using the actions in the reporting services or any other reporting tool. Now let's quickly see. In this session, we will be discussing about the actions, and we will be discussing about the errors, how to find out the error and how to fix the error. I'm going to inject some errors to show you how it's going to be. Okay, the first thing, actions. There are basically 3 types of actions. The standard action, which is using which you can use by clicking on the icon that I'm highlighting, and the drill through action and the reporting action. So if you're using SSRS reports, the reporting action is an option that you can use to open the SSRS report from your cube. Similarly, if you want to drill through into the data, like if you want to drill through into the details, you can use the drill through action. And the standard action has some standard actions like creating the navigating to a URL, or creating the data set, or creating the record set, and so on. So if you see the action name, let's say my first action, and action type, it can be on level members or attribute members. You can give where this action has to be. Let's say attribute members, then I have to select which attribute member. Let's say, for example, do you have anything called zip code? Sub-region, city, state, province, city. There is no zip code, right? Okay. Let me select country. I want to have the action on the country. And here you can have a condition, an MDX condition, optional. Like for example, if the current member is Argentina, then only show this action, or don't show this action. This is an optional condition to filter this action application on the data. Let's say you have 100 members in the country attribute. Out of 100, you don't want to show this action for two members or 3 members. You can have the condition here using MDX. Here you see the most commonly used, or at least if you ask me in my career, I think I used 2 types of actions from here. One is this, and another one, I think, if I remember it correctly, it's a data set, but very, very, very rarely used stuff. So let me select URL, HTTP is what this guy will return. Let me see. If you ask me in recent past, at least in last 3-4 projects, I've never used this action. Just an information to you guys. So this opens the google.com. Okay, let me go to this, and Additional properties, these are common across all the actions, like what is the application from where you are. This is just an input field, like you want to call this action, what is the application where you will be calling this. It's just a hint to the server. I can give Excel or I can give reporting services. It's a textual, it's an enterable field, whatever you want you can enter there. And description about this action, and caption, what caption you want to show for this action, like go to Google. Let's say this is my caption, and is caption an MDX. If you set it to true, this will try to execute as an MDX. But this MDX is wrong, so it is not. It is showing some error message. So if it is an MDX, it should be something like this. And this is a plain text, so I'll set it to false. And interactive mode, batch or on open. So how you want to invoke this particular action. By default, it will be interactive mode, which means when user interacted it, when user right clicked on it, you can see this action. And batch means it will execute as a batch. And the third one is, batch of actions whenever you open an Excel or so. And the on open means whenever you open the cube from anywhere, this action will be triggered and it will be executed. The most common one which we use, first of all, we don't use actions much frequently, but if we use it, they go by interactive. So where users right clicks and see the action. Now, this is a simple action I defined using the URL. I hope this works, unless there is some syntax errors in the expression. So let me deploy it. Remember, this is on countries, right? Let it deploy. And I unnecessarily inserted a lot of data into this. Now it is taking time to process this. See? It was processing in less than a couple of seconds, so now it's taking a minute or so. Okay, it's almost done. Now let me go to the browser, or better to see in Excel. Good. And you have profit here. Let me select let's say country. You have United States, and let's look for the action. What is the action name that I've given? So if you see, it's not showing the action here, but if you go to the Excel, I connected to the same cube, and if you go to the additional actions, you'll see the action name that I've given here. I've given it as go to Google. If I click on it, it will go and execute that action, which is like https://www.gotogoogle. This is just one example of navigating to a particular page using the URL. So the ideal case where you'll be using it is, for example, if you have an employee ID, you can map it to the employee page. You see what I mean? So if you have an employee page for every employee in your intranet, in your company website, and you have employee by sales, on right click, you can go to that particular employee. So which means from the cube, you can directly go to the employee page instead of taking that ID and searching for that ID and opening the employee ID. So these kind of actions, in those cases, the actions will be very helpful. So, for example, let me create one more action real quick on, let's say, attribute members, and let me select let's say city, and for now let me copy the same same action expression. I'll explain you why I'm copying the same. And interactive, let it be interactive, and let's say this is MDX, and go to, I can have some what you call caption dynamically generated. Like for example, I created this for the city. I marked it, the caption is MDX to true, and here I'm trying to write some MDX query. Go to under city. Let me reconnect it to get the cities, and I'm getting the city dot current member dot name. So this should give me the current member, whatever the current member it is. Like if I right click on Texas, it should give me go to Texas. It should work like that per my expectation. Let me quickly deploy it. Unless there is some issue in the MDX that I've written, that should work. That should give you the go to the city name or whatever. So let me refresh it and let me get the city in. Wow, you have only one city. This is pathetic. And if you see, the city name is concatenated here. Go to Andrix. So if I click here, it will open the same URL whatever I've given. So this is how you can customize your action names. And if you can have the similar functionality here. When you click on the actions, when you right click on this, when you select the menu, and when you go to the additional actions, you can make it to show go to United States or take me to United States. You can write some custom titles for the actions using the is MDX. I mean, title is MDX property setting to true, and having some MDX queries or MDX syntax in the title box. Now, let me quickly see Andrix. Search for this Andrix city, and let me go to maps. I'm trying to get the URL. So Google Maps or Bing Maps. Let's select Andrix. Let's see what it's gonna give. And if you see, this is the default URL, okay? And what will happen if I don't have this cave and all the stuff here? Will it give me the Andrix city? So this is giving me, this is taking me to the Andrix, right? So what we can do here is you can have the URL dynamically generated. For example, instead of this, I can generate, oops, it has so much of URL. Okay, and let me copy only the thing that is required to me. And instead of this place, I can have the same formula, like assign the current member name. So which will be assigning the Andrix city. So here, when you go to the action, it should execute like go to the Google Maps, and it has to assign the city. If again, I'm telling the same, if the syntax action expression is correct. So let me quickly deploy. Unfortunately, we don't have many cities data in our system. That is why you can see only one action here. So let me go to Andrix, and if you see, it is taking you to the Andrix location. Similarly, you can set for the countries. So if you give the cube to the end user, and you can tell them that, okay, there is action defined if you want to see where this location is. And if you don't know where the location is, you can use the action, which will take you to the city directly instead of you copying and pasting and executing it manually. So similarly, employee page, you can have it. Similarly, if you're working on, let's say, bank account, and internally, if you want to show the basic details of the bank account holder, and if you have access to the data, you can do that. And anything, if you have a web page design, by passing some parameters, if you can get that information, you can make use of this URL action. Similarly, if you go back to the actions page in here, there are a few other actions which are theoretically you need to know. Dataset, if you select the dataset, you need to write an MDX query here. It will return a multi-dimensional dataset back to the caller. So if you call it, you will get the multi-dimensional dataset back. And similarly, the row set is tabular row set, whereas this is multi-dimensional and this is tabular. And statement will return any statement or command that can be executed from the calling environment. Remember, you will be calling these actions either from Excel or somewhere, so it will return that what you call a command line or a command that can be executed from the calling environment. Same way proprietary, I mean, to be honest, I've never used any of these things. And proprietary, and I don't have any good examples to show for this. Proprietary returns some textual information, whatever the textual information that can be parsed. For example, if I type this and if I give some text, it'll pass the same text to the calling environment. It's not going to do anything for you, like navigating you to the different web browser and opening a page dynamically or anything of that sort. So it's just have some theoretical knowledge, and I'm pretty sure you will not be using this. Data set, you can write some MDX queries here, which will return the data as a data set. And row set, this is for tabular data. And this is this returns some text, whatever you have provided here in the double quotes. And this is for URLs, and statement is for any command that can be executed from the calling environment. So these are the basic. In my experience, you'll be using URL, and you may sometimes use the drill through. And if you are using reporting services, reporting action is something which you'll be using very frequently. So if you go to the drill through action, this is again a similar action where it will take you to the detailed information. Let's say you are at country level. This shows you detailed data. Detailed data in the sense the state level data or whatever you configure. For example, I'll leave it as drill through action. I'll set it on sales, okay? And condition is optional, you can give or no. And any measure, if you right click on any measure in the sales measure group, okay, then these columns will be returned. When you right click on any measure, you want to see, let's say, who is the customer, and from here, and let's say I selected, I want to see this, what is the city, and let's say you selected bill to customer, who is the bill to customer, and let's say you want to see the invoice date, and you want to see the delivered date. You are setting the, I mean, the detailed information that you want to see, and you want to see the description, and you want to see the measures. You want to see what is the quantity, tax amount, profit, this, and so on. So once you set these columns that you want to see as part of your drill through, and you can select multiple columns too. It's not one column only. It can select multiple columns from any dimension, and you need to select in the same order, whatever order you want to see. And if you go to the additional properties, the default, I have no clue what is this default. I've never used this. Maximum rows, you can specify how many rows you want to see. Let's say, for example, I'm giving 55 rows. Don't show beyond 55 rows. Show me only 55 rows. Generally, you will be giving 2,000 or 4,000 rows because people can't see more than 2,000 or 4,000 rows. And interactive, it's again the same. I'll leave it to interactive, and application, I'll mark it as Excel. And description, I can give some description, and caption, see detail information. Okay, and you can have a dynamic MDX again. Okay, so now I created a simple drill through, and let me deploy it. And I don't need to process. If you observe, I just need to deploy it whenever I make any changes to my actions. Let me close it, and let me refresh. If you see the actions here, you will not see that action defined. Even the other action is gone because I screwed up the action. The expression I deleted, right? So it is not returning anything. Okay, never mind about that. And if you go to the actions here, this dummy is not the measure that belongs to the sale. Let me select profit, and let me see if there is any action here. If you see, it is showing you see detailed info only on profit but not on dummy, because I mentioned show the drill through action on any measure that is created from the that belongs to the sales measure group, and profit belongs to the sales measure group, whereas dummy is a calculated measure that we have created. Now if I click on this, It will open in a new page the detailed information, whatever we have selected. Customer, city, bill to customer, date, description, and so on. And if you see, the number of rows should be close to whatever you have selected. It's 55 I selected. Two rows are, the top two rows are not having any data. And if you see, the top row will say that this is the drill through action, data written for the drill through action. This country, United States, and this city are Abbotsburg. Okay, so this is how you can create a drill through actions, which is a little bit more used than the other reporting actions. So this is, and you can see a different city here. Let's see what happens to this action now, from where this city is coming from. Let me take out the dummy. I was on the wrong one. Now let me go back and create my action again. If I remember that action, so I see more cities here. So this is the city name. It should take the city name and go to that particular location. And I need to copy up to here in the code so that it will navigate to the particular city. And let me deploy the let me deploy the cube again so that I can use that action which with the name second action. So it's deployed. Now let me reconnect or refresh. And now if you go and see the action, it should be showing. Oops. Why it's not showing? Is it the same one I created on, or country, city? This looks good. And what is wrong in the action? Oops, I selected proprietary as action. My bad. Yeah, it should be URL, right? I selected the wrong one. So let me redeploy it again. My bad, guys. Okay, I just refresh it. And now let me go to this actions. And you can see, go to Upsicon, or I can't spell that. I can't pronounce it properly. So if you go to the action, it will open the map for you. See, this is how it looks. Beautiful, right? The same way you can go to any city here. Like let's say this sales is super good. Then where is this location and why it is super good? You can have any URL configured, any valid URL configured. So here this is the valid URL because I'm taking the city and I'm opening the map of the city. Or if you have an address of your location in this city, you can configure your address too, so that it will show you where your office is in that particular city or where the shop is in the particular city. Or whatever it purely depends on the data that is available with you. So now, and here you can go for the drill through action. See detail info. It gives you detail info and how many records is written. It written 57 records because I selected 55. There may be more records. And the beauty is it shows you all the description and everything. Whatever the columns we selected, it's a detailed information. So let's quickly have some theoretical knowledge on reporting action, because I don't have reporting server in my system and I don't have any reports deployed. If fortunately we get time and create one single report per one of our student requested, then I can use that URL here. So when you have a reporting action, you have to give the level names where you want to get that, like any other action. If you select attribute names, under which attribute you want to take this. For example, if you're generating employee scorecard or city-wise sales, okay, in that case you can select this action in city. When you right click on the city, you can pass this city as a parameter to your SSRS report. So what you need to do is you need to give your report server name. What is your report server name? If your reports are deployed locally, then it will be localhost. Or if it is a server name XYZ ABC, you have to give your server name and you have to give the path. Generally, if you have not worked on SSRS report, this is how the path looks for SSRS reports. HTTPS report server / report .aspx something blah blah blah. It will go like this. I forgot that. So you will have some information here. So this is how your report URL looks. So the report server name will be given first, and everything after that should be given in the second part. which you have in the report path. You have to give the report path here. If you give any valid report path, this will go off. And how you want to show the report format? There are few formats. You want to show it as an HTML5 page or HTML3 page or Excel, or you want to open it or show it as a PDF. So if you select one of these options, then the parameters. These parameters are optional. You know, right? If you create an SSRS report, there may be some parameters defined. And if you have to pass values to those parameters, you can make use of this. Type the parameter name here and value here. And the value, once you type the name, let's say test is my parameter, and I can write some MDX here to pass the value to that. Okay. I may need to process and reconnect. Actually, it will show all the metadata here. So something like, what is that? City dot current member dot name. So this guy will pass the city to the parameter, the first parameter. Same way, if you have multiple parameters, and no, I've given one example here, parameter name, whatever is the parameter name, as you pinged, I'm giving you the same parameter, okay? So any parameter name, whatever is the parameter name, you can pass, you can give the parameter name. Once you have your report ready, you will get all those parameter information here. And you can give what value you want to pass. Even you can pass some hard-coded values. Let's say you want to generate report for India, you can pass India. And this value should be there if it is a drop-down parameters in your SSRS report. Drop-down means you need to select one from the list of the parameters. Or if it is not there, then it will select blank and it will try to generate the report. So once it's done, then you need to specify the same properties here. And once everything is given, and if the server name and the report path are valid and the parameters are valid, you can see your action under the same menu. Like here under actions, you will see your reporting action, whatever the name that you provide for the reporting action name, you will see the name. So that's how you can create the reporting actions. The advantage of it is you don't need to, if you have a report generated already for based on this cube data, and you don't need to log into the report section. And if you want to see the data, you can directly take, it will directly take you from here to the SSRS page, and it will show you the report. Even it will open in PDF so that you can save the report how you want to show the report format. Based on that, it will open the report for you from SSAS. So this is about the different actions that we have, and it's important to know, but I hope you'll not be working much on in the actions, but always good to know about this. Okay, that's it about the actions, and now let's quickly see some kind of errors. What kind of errors that you may encounter while processing the cube. Main issue is processing the cube, and second issue is the data. Okay, if the data is not good. So the first and foremost one is, let's say for example, let me inject errors now. Okay, I'm trying to inject errors, and let's say I included a column. Which dimension we have? Let's say we have a customer, right? Let me include a column to customer. Let me add a column to customer. Alter table customer, add column name is temp, varchar of 100. Okay, so oops, it's a dimension dot customer. So I added a column with the name for the table customer. So I'm just giving you a scenario. Update this one, this table, set temp is equal to roof. So I'm updating with some value. Okay, 409 rows got updated. So if I refresh this, if I refresh this data source view, it should get all the changes, whatever the changes that I've made so far. And this temp is in, and now let me add it. Where is that customer dimension? I'm adding it. and let me process it. So this is how your cube will be. Now once I deploy it and process it, the new attribute will be available for querying in the cube. So there may be some cases where the data, the columns are removed by mistake or due to some reason. If a column is removed in the data warehouse, if different teams are working, one team working on data warehousing and one team working on analysis services, cube designing, without informing the cube designing team, they may delete some columns once in a meanwhile. Rare cases, but I'm just giving you an example. I'm giving you all the possible errors that you will encounter. I'm trying to give every possible error that you may encounter while designing the cube. So this is processed. Now let's say the guy dropped this, drop column. So this is dropped. Now there is no column. If you process the cube, what will happen now? You'll get all these kind of whatever the error that you face, you will get it only during processing. Most of the errors you will get it during processing. Now I'm deploying it. I've not changed anything. I'm deploying it, and then I'm trying to run it, and it failed. My intention is to show you how to identify the failure. Okay, if you get any errors like this, and if it has only the error messages, then you have to read from start. The operation terminated unsuccessfully, an invalid column named temp. So where is this temp? An error occurred while dimension ID with the ID of customer, name of customer was being processed. So that means the dimension name is a customer, and the name of the dimension is also customer. So while that is processing, we got this error and we see an attribute missing or a column missing or invalid column. So in that case, what you need to do is you need to go to the dimension and see what is wrong here. So it's complaining about temp. So this has some problem. So what you need to do, edit in the data source view. If you go here, what you need to do is it's saying that the temp is missing or temp column is missing. Try to explore the data. If you explore the data, it's giving you the proper message, invalid column name temp. And so by this time, you should understand, okay, this column has been removed. Now, what is the fix? The fix is either remove the column and remove the attribute, or if you don't want to remove, if you want to keep it as is, convert this into a named query. Okay, and give some dummy value to the temp. So it's not showing the temp column because it is not available in the underlying table. So what you can do is, just to avoid the processing failures, you can have dummy value as column name temp. Now when you execute it, you'll get that unable to pass the query, some query error. Let me check that. Maybe comma missing. Yes, it is. So now let me execute it, and you can see some dummy column created with a dummy value, and the name of the column is temp. This is one way of fixing this issue without deleting. The other way is refresh it and be in sync with your data source. It's saying the temp is deleted. Select OK, and if you go back here to the customer dimension, and you will see some red color under this. That means this is deleted from the data source. You delete it and now process it. You are in sync with your analysis services. So if you find any missing column, or if the processing failed with the missing column error message, then you have to find out if the column is removed from the data source, and then you have to give an option to the user saying that, that manager or whoever, saying that you want me to insert some junk data and keep the column, or you want me to drop the column from the queue, which will result in dropping an attribute. So if he agrees to the second one, then go ahead and drop it. Refresh the data source view and delete the attribute from the dimension. Now this is processed successfully. Now let's see another type of issues that you may encounter. So generally, in our case, we have well-defined data source views, right, where you have the data for what you call, where you have the data in the dimensions as well as in the facts, and there is no orphan records. The most common issue, the another issue is orphan records. Orphan records in the sense the data, let's say for example, employee customer ID will be available in the fact table, but not in your dimension table. So let's say there is a sale with the customer name Rupesh. Rupesh made a sales of $500, and if there is no record for the Rupesh here, customer here, then that means this is an orphan data, and you cannot trust the data, right? So the orphan records are very important, and I mean, if you don't have these foreign key relationships defined in your data warehouse, now most of the guys are not doing. Then in that case, you will get these kind of errors, orphan record errors. Now let's see how it looks, how the error message looks. For that, I need to remove one of the customer ID, right? How can I remove the customer ID? I cannot delete it from my table. So just to show you a demo, I'm gonna take a workaround to eliminate one of the customer ID and then try to process it. Before that, let me go and get what are all the customer IDs that we have in our fact table. Fact dot sale. Let's say this. Where is the customer ID? Okay, customer key. Here it is. Most of the keys are 0. Why the hell everything is 0? Okay, here are a few customer keys. So let me take the customer key 271. Okay, now my intention is to remove this 271 from the list of customers. I cannot delete in the table directly. So what I can do here is I can convert it into a named query. This is, keep in mind, this is just to show you an example. Okay, where customer key not equal to this ID. So if I execute it, it will bring in all the customers except the customer with the ID 271. So if you have any doubts, you can check that. Where is the 271? It should be near to this. I'm at 277, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 0. There is no 271 customer. 271 customer is missing. It's not coming because I filtered the data. Now, if I process the cube, what's going to happen? Is it going to fail or is it going to succeed? What is the result? What's your guess? Okay, before you guess, I'm processing it. And it is processing the customer data. Now, once it starts processing the fact data, it is still going. Okay, it failed. Now, you all know it's gonna fail. How to understand the error is the main purpose of this. So now we know what is the error is, but you should be able to understand from the error messages that you got. Okay, so the error is the key column is missing, right? The parent value is missing for a transaction data. When you have any warning messages at the bottom, then you have to read it from bottom. Remember, this is where you have to read it from, not from top. That is why I said it's all, when it is everything is error message, then start from top. When you have warning messages, go from here. Here it is saying that attribute key could not be found when processing fact sale. That means while processing this particular fact table, an attribute key is missing. What is that attribute? Customer key. Where you will find this customer? You will find this customer key in the customer dimension. Okay. So from this error message, how I analyze the requirement. Let's say I have this error message copied here. So what I'll do is, the first thing I'll do is I'll take this fact data. What is this fact sale? Okay. and it is saying customer key is missing, then first I'll check whether that particular key is used in the fact table or not. Customer key is equal to, it is talking about 271. So, okay, there are fact records with the customer key 271. The next thing that I check is the dimension table. Select start from dimension dot customer where customer key is equal to 271. So even it is available here, which means, right? In real, you will not have this record, but here you have the data because I filtered it in my data source view. Okay, now you understood, right? What is the next step I'll do? If I don't find this record here, then I have to either delete the records with this ID, which people don't like, or I have to convert this 271 as an unknown member or something like that. So the deleting means it's pretty straightforward. If you don't find it, then delete from this table where customer key is equal to 271. That will solve the issue. But you need to understand why the 271 is in fact table but not in the dimension table. You have to go and debug your ETL packages where it's missing, how it's missing, and you have to fix that. Once you fix it, you can come back and you can process the cube again. There is another fix where you can convert this stuff into unknown. So for example, in the customer dimension, if you go to the properties of the dimension, error configuration, here if you see key duplicate, report and stop, and key not found, this is the error, I guess, what we are encountering. Specifies the action taken by the server upon encountering a key that cannot be found, which means if the dimension key is missing and is available in the fact table, then it is asking the server to report and stop. You can say as ignore error. If you ignore error, then it will continue and it won't fail. Okay. Now let's quickly process this. I set the property to ignore error. But remember, ignore error is not the right thing to do. So processing the city, all the dimensions. Maybe I have to change it in one more place. Let's see. Hope this will be successful. Okay, I may have to change it in one more place. What is the customer dimension and error configuration and key error limit action? You should not stop processing, stop logging. And I think this key error limit, it is 0, which means it is unlimited. And this should work. If not, we will change few more other properties. So these properties, error configuration properties, which we did not discuss during the dimension process. Dimension properties discussion is because you need to know what kind of errors you will encounter and where to fix it. So let's see. And ultimately, I'm gonna change in one more place if it fails. But the actual action that you need to take here is to go and find out why the dimension attribute or why the member is missing. So if you find out that, then only you can solve this. What you call? You can. That should be the fix. Let me go tab. I think I'm on that. Error configuration. Here is the dimension key errors because we are dealing with the fact, so you need to set it here. Use custom error configuration and key error action convert to unknown. Okay, and ignore error count. Don't stop it if you find any errors. And key not found. This is the key thing. So key not found. It is not there over there. Key not found. Ignore the error. And now You can write these logs to the path. You can write these logs to the path by giving some path. We don't need that. We can see it here. And if you execute it, let's quickly see. Okay, I changed it. Initially I changed at the dimension level, but there was no key not found property. I changed it at the processing level, and you see this got successful. But if there are any records, it will be either converted to unknown or it will be hidden. It won't be showing in your cube. This is not the ideal solution. I'm repeating again and again. This is not the ideal solution. The solution is to fix the data. You have to go and fix the data, but try to understand how to find out where is the error. Okay, this is the second type of error that you may encounter when you are working on cube designing. Let me go back to my data source view and let me take out this where class because I don't want it to fail. And let's see the another error. The most common third type of error is duplicate keys. When you have duplicate keys, for example, I'm going to this dimension and I'm doing union all, which means it will union with the same data. I'm copying the same query again. If you execute it, you will get 0 key and it will go till the end and it will start from 0 again. Let me take out few query windows from here. Okay, so now it should stop somewhere here. You see, this is 0 again. So I'm getting the same customer key 2 times. When you're creating the dimension, the first and foremost condition is the key column should be unique. You cannot duplicate. You cannot have duplicated values. So now let's see what kind of errors you face when you have data like this. I'm injecting errors here. Keep that in mind. This is not the regular practice where people will be doing union all of two same table again and again. I'm injecting errors to show you what kind of error message and how to understand the error messages. Now I'm processing this and I'm processing only the dimension. Okay. I did some mistake before processing it. I set the properties for this dimension to ignore the errors, right? Stop processing and okay. Now let me process it. What the heck, it is getting processed. Which dimension I changed? Is it the same one? You see, the dimension is getting processed successfully. Can anyone guess what is the reason? The data will be perfect. I'm pretty sure about that. So the dimension is processing successfully. But it is reading only 410 records or whatever the records that you have without the duplicate. Somewhere here I've seen the count. So even I was shocked by seeing the successful message. Let's do processful. It's going pretty good. It is reading, if you see, it is reading only 410 records. Let me quickly see what is wrong in my query, or did I save that, or sometimes I won't save it. 0, it starts with 400. Oh, it has duplicate data, and 0 to 0, everything is good, everything looks good. And let me go back to the dimension. This is weird. Let me try to find out what property that I've changed. Maybe the properties that I changed last time should be still here. Dimension key errors. No, this is using custom default configuration and process all objects. This is all good. And what else? What else should be the reason? Let me process clear it. And let me process. Is it the same data? Explore data. Yep, it's the same data. I might be missing, I might be doing something wrong. Let me quickly figure it out. Properties. Null key convert to unknown. This is fine. You can report and stop. Key not found. You can report and stop. Stop processing. 0. Convert to unknown. Ignore error. Key error limit. This is all looks good. And what is the key column for this dimension? So there should be only one column here. Customer key. This is also good. I might be doing some silly mistake. Oh, my bad. I think it may be taking the distinct records while pulling the data. See, if you execute it, okay, while executing, it takes the distinct records, okay, and it goes by like if there is no change, it won't cause any problem. So let me have some change here. That's the mistake I'm doing. So let's say instead of I don't know what values that I have in WW customer, I'll say I have to set some different value -1 as. So let me execute it. So all the records are same. The whole table is same. That is why it is getting duplicate. I mean that's why it is getting distinct data, and that's why it's processing successfully. I told you, right? I was doing something silly. So now let me try that. There should be some key mismatch or some kind of issue to get failures. Let me do process full. Okay, now you see this is failed. So the reason is process update masks some kind of errors, data related errors. It won't show, let's say you have duplicate value, it won't show that sometimes when you have these kind of scenarios. And process full, whenever you do process full, it fails. If you worked on analysis services, sometimes the process full will be failing and process update will be successful when the hierarchy keys or when the references are having duplicates. So these kind of issues are masked by the process update. That's why you have to do process full. Now, it is complaining something, a duplicate key. Try to understand the difference between the error messages. The first error message says that the column is missing. Second error message says that key not found. Third error message saying that the duplicate key has been found when processing dimension uh, customer, and the column is this and the value is 0. So if you have an error message like this, how I debug? I'll go to SQL, I'll have this here, and I'll say it is saying duplicate key has been found while processing the table. Okay, this is the table, and the key is 0 where customer key is 0. Okay, and the attribute is customer key. So we have two queries in our data source view. So I have to take the same to understand where the error is. So let me go back to the data source view. This is my query and select star from. This is my actual query A, where customer key is equal to 0. And if you see here, this is 0, this is 0, this is 0, this is -1. So this is the duplicate that you are finding, that the server is finding. So what you need to do is you need to eliminate the duplicates. Make sure that the key is unique and you should not have the duplicates. So what can you do to create unique? You have to either remove this or remove this. You have to find out which one is the right record and you have to delete the other record. And also at the same time you have to find out how a duplicate record has been inserted. To show you a demo, I'm injecting by using the union all, and hope you understand how you can find out the duplicate keys when you have your. So in dimension level, if the key is duplicated, it will fail. If the key is missing, which is used in the fact table, it will throw an error. These are the two important things. And the third thing is duplicate key in a different way. Let me show you how can how that, I mean, I can't show you an example for that, but this you understood right now, the duplicates, the duplicate key and the missing key. How to solve this? You have to go and fix the data and automatically it will be solved. Or the other way is you have to go to the dimension and you have to go to the error configuration, because this is related to the dimension. So go to the error configuration, and if you find key duplicates, instead of report and stop, you can say report and continue or ignore error. If you say ignore error, it will be ignored. And if there is any key error action, if you say convert to unknown, then it will take use of this, or you can discard the record. If you say key convert to unknown, let's say for example key missing, then it will convert to unknown and you have to give the value visible and you have to give the name unknown member. Automatically the missing members will be converted with this name. So now we have a few options, like if there is any calculation error you can ignore, key duplicate you can ignore. I mean, this is for time being, but in real you have to fix it. Key error action, if there is any key error action, do you want to discard the record or you want to convert to unknown? I feel better convert to unknown. And key error limit 0 means it's limit, I mean any how many errors it can tolerate before throwing or failing it. And what if it reaches the limit? So if it reaches the limit, stop processing or stop logging. You have two options. If you select stop logging, if you say there are more errors, it will continue to process, but it won't log the information. It won't give you the information in the wizard, that in the processing wizard. And key error log file. If you provide some log file, it will go on log there. If you want to log this information, you can provide the log data. I mean, whatever the processing information. And key not found. If the key is not found, then you can convert to it, or you can ignore error. Null key converted to unknown, which means if you are getting a null in any particular attribute, what you want to do, you want to convert it into unknown, or you want to ignore error, or you want to report and continue. If you say ignore error, it will ignore the error if there is any null values in the attribute. Similarly, null key not allowed, which means if there is any null key column, then see, attribute key being null is different and null key column is different. It's the main. This has any null, then what you want to do, you want to convert to unknown, yes, you can convert to unknown. So these are the different options we have in error configurations and what kind of errors you can get. And there may be, depending on the kind of work that you're doing, you may see few more different errors. I can't think of many. And another error is the calculate. Few guys, what they'll do is they'll take out this calculate from here by mistake. First time if they're working, they'll take out this calculate, and if you process now, remember this is very important. If you process now, I'm gonna finish it very soon. I just want to cover this. The process failed and it gives you the error message saying that, oops, it still has that 271 customer. Why the hell it is still showing that? I have that record, right? Maybe I have to process it. I've not processed the customer dimension. Okay, let me process it. Process full. I'm pretty sure I have the 271 in here. And let me process the cube. I don't have time to fix these errors now. Come on. What the heck? So the customer key 271 is still missing. It is showing it is missing for bill to customer. Oh, maybe after that I have not processed this particular dimension. After after making the change. So bill to customer and the customer are referring to the same tables, right? So that could be the reason. So let me process it now. It should work. It should pass that error message, at least what we have got last time. come on. So when you don't have calculate, it read all the data. You see, it is reading all the data. And the last step, everything is done. Now let's quickly see what's going to happen if I try to see the data. Reconnect, execute, and you see it's saying no records found. But I know we have a lot of records, right? So it is not showing any data. Sometimes you will be getting this error message, no records found, click to execute. The actual reason is the calculation has been taken out from here by some guy. So if you don't have this, then it won't work. It works, it won't give you the data. Remember, this is very rare cases you will encounter this error, but if you encounter this error, keep in mind, I screwed up something here. Calculation, I think calculate. Okay, so now let me execute it, let me deploy it. So some guy, I mean, from you in your team, let's say if you deleted the calculate keyword, then you might be looking into the fact data, why the data is not coming and so on. But the actual reason is the calculate has been removed, and you see the data is back now. So this is one issue which not many people are aware of, and if you have this kind of scenario, then be aware to fix this. And another kind of issue is you will be connecting to the wrong dimension key. Let's say, for example, sale key, I set it to regular, and instead of sale key, I'm giving stock key. And okay, let's say I have given sale key. Oops, the heck. Let me open it again. Regular. I'm sorry, guys. And I selected the sale key, and instead of the right keys, I've given invoice date key first and the sale key next. If you see, the mapping is not right. If you have wrong mapping, generally it fails the processing because it will try to look for these keys in your sales dimension, and it will say, okay, these guys are not available, you're doing some mistake. If you see the error message, requested conversion is not supported. Maybe the key that you are trying to convert, invoice key, date key, is not supported with the sale key, right? So here, for example, if I give a wrong date key, and instead of sale key, let's say I've given city key, and let's say I give the right date key, whatever the invoice date key. Everything is good except one mapping. This mapping is wrong. So when you try to process in this case, you will get error messages. It will say that the key not found in the sales dimension. But as you know, you can ignore those keys and you can proceed the processing. You can see the sale key is missing or city key is missing. Now, what you can do here is you can ignore that errors and the key not found, ignore error, and null key not found. If you say this, it will go on process. It will be successful. It's not going to fail because you are ignoring the errors and it is reading all the fact data. Okay, you see, it read all the fact data and everything is good because you ignored the errors. But when you try to connect and see the data here, let's say, for example, if I go by city, you see you have the data, proper one. And let me get from the sale description. Let's say this one. Oops. How many descriptions are there? There may be some missing descriptions which the city key and the sale key is not matching. What I'm trying to explain here is select sale key star from fact.sale, and if you see the descriptions where sale key and the city key are same, only those will be showing. Okay, let's say, for example, where sale key is equal to city key. And if I execute it, only one is there, but why I'm seeing more? One second. See, if you see here, I set it to city. Okay, I change the relationship to the city key. But if you see the actual data, um, inner join dimension dot city on, let's say I'll call it as A, I'll call it as B, on A dot, I think I've given sale key or city key is equal to B dot city key, and here I'll give city comma sum of profit group by city, order by city. So if you see, this is the query what we are executing in MDX on the other side, and let's see what is the sales. And if you see, the sales are too much high, but when you come to the browser here, the sales are very low because in the relationships I have given city key to the sale key. Okay, this is the mismatch I have done. Sometimes users will be complaining, oh, the data is so low, or data is not coming as expected. So in that case, the first thing, one of the key things that you need to check is, the first thing, obviously you have to go and check the fact data by running this kind of query, whatever I have executed here. If you execute this kind of query, this gives you what is the actual sales or whatever the fact measure you are looking at, and you have to compare it with the data. And if the data is less here compared to here, then chances are the data is getting filtered in the data source view, or the relationships is not set properly. If I set the relationships properly, then everything will be back here in this case. So most 99.99% of these cases, this will fail. Okay, this processing will fail if you set the wrong keys. It may be successful only in the case of the dates, where completed date and the created date, if you give it in the reverse order, then all the data will be in reverse order. For the completed date, it will show you the created date sales, and for the created date, it will show you the completed date sales, something like that, because date values are common and it won't be changing, right? So that is why the keys will remain the same. In that case, you have to be very careful, and you have to keep an eye on the attribute relationships. Now let me go to the city, and you see all the values are coming back now. So when the right relationships are given. So these are the few types of errors that you will encounter while working on analysis services. And hope you understood, and watch this video one more time to get clear picture about this, about the errors and the actions. And see you in tomorrow's session, guys. Thank you for joining today. Bye bye.